Hey everyone, Scott here to discuss Avatar Fire and Ash, starring Sam Worthington, Zoe Saldana, Sigourney Weaver, Stephen Lang, Una Chaplin, Kate Winslet, Cliff Curtis, Joel David Moore, CCH Pounder, and Edie Falco, directed by James Cameron. Welcome back, sir. After I reviewed her filmography before the Terminator series, I thought about and welcome back to Avatar. And I have and like I said, I reviewed all James Cameron's work, except for Piranha 2. I'm not going to do that one. But, and I have reviewed the Avatar films before I've done, well, the first one before Terminator Dark Fate. And now, and I returned before with The Way of Water. And now I'm back with Fire and Ash. So let's see if this is going to be a direct to go through or if it's going to be good. Let's find out. We open with some flying creatures from the first movie with brothers Loak and Neteyam, who died in the end of the last movie, and as they land, Neteyam asks how did he die, which makes me think this is a vision of from Awa in the underwater in the last movie. While whenever I hear them saying, bro, I could take a drink, as Loak thinks his family blames him for Neteyam's death, while Loak's sister Kiri, returned by Sigourney Weaver, and a humans named Spider hang together in the last movie. And their parents, Jake Sully, returned by Sam Worthington, and Neytiri, returned by Zoe Saldana, are upset over the death of Neteyam. While Jake collects weapons like guns from the Sky People and the Water Clan Na'vi called Tanawari, returned by Cliff Curtis from the last movie, and Renal, returned by Kate Winslet, also from the last movie, don't approve of the guns being in their territory while they believe in spears, and Jake believes they're useless while guns aren't the Na'vi way, as Jake continues to fight with guns because that's the way to kill the Sky People. And we move on to Miles Quaritch, returned by Stephen Lang, arguing what his mission is with General Ardmore, returned by Edie Falco. And these characters are fine at best, while this opener goes absolutely nowhere, as a lot of this beginning goes absolutely nowhere, but the visual effects are what's keeping me interested in the movie, like the last one. Neytiri hates on humans, even the Sky People, as Jake was one of those once, while Loak, Spider, and Kiri, and a couple of others who won't matter in the movie, who mattered in the last movie, ride a whale and hang out together and talk with the outcast whale, whom I can't remember his name, until later. Nah, I'm never going to remember his name. What am I talking about? As Spider almost loses his breathing mask, and next day comes with the Wind Na'vi coming in, and Jake and Neytiri make a decision to get Spider back with Norm Spellman, returned by Joel David Moore from later in the movie, and the Loak, Kiri, and youngest Took coming with Spider, with Neytiri and Jake to put him in with the Forest Na'vi by flying with the Wind Na'vi, and some of this could be in the editing room floor as it slows the movie way down. And this is 3 hours and 17 minutes, and about over an hour of this could be in the editing room floor. Quaritch and one of his soldiers, Lyle, finds the Sullies as the Wind Na'vi with the Sullies get attacked by the Ash Na'vi led by Varang, played by Una Chaplin, who's the granddaughter of Charlie Chaplin. And their ride is down, and the action scene was pretty cool. While Neytiri gets hit by an arrow on my first viewing, I was like, damn! She went down, but luckily doesn't die. And that was a scene I didn't mind at all, as it had the stakes right out the bat. I mean, that's the thing that you should keep in the movie, Jim Cameron. Loak, Kiri, Took, and Spider get lost on the ground, and they see Varang and the Ash Na'vi killing other Na'vi off, and they go after the kids as they try to get as far away from the Ash Na'vi as possible, while Varang wants to use bullets and guns to kill off our enemies. While Jake looks for the kids, and Quaritch captures Jake briefly and has him hostage, while Neytiri is picked up by her creature Seisei from the first movie. And it flies with her, and Spider briefly runs out of breath from the mask the humans wear in the first two movies. And do I care? Somewhat, as Kiri was annoying the crap out of me. Kiri plugs in her hair wire looking thing from the first two movies, as it makes Spider starting to breathe without the mask, as he awakens, and Varang with the Ash Navi show up out of the blue and torture the kids. And she asks how Spider does he live, with Kiri saying it was the cause of Awa, as she asks how does the gun work, while Jake and Quaritch show up from behind and save the kids, as Varang has Quaritch under his control, and she asks him how to work a gun. And he does, as she learns as a villainess. Varang was a pretty interesting character, and kudos to Una Chaplin for playing the character menacingly and attracting Quaritch later in the movie. Neytiri gets to Norm, and she gets some surgery, while eventually the Sullys with Spider and Quaritch get away out of the Ash Navi by Kiri shooting at some of the Ash people, and get away from the Ash Navi. And Jake and Quaritch talk about what will happen to them in this world, as Neytiri shows up with the Forest Navi the next day and to pick up the kids with Jake, while Quaritch runs out of there, which was pretty funny to me. And there was a few times I laughed in this movie, like how amazed Norm is that Spider can breathe the air, as that was funny to me unintentionally. Quaritch and Ardmore ask about Spider, and Parker Selfridge, returned by Giovanni Ribisi, whom I haven't seen since... I haven't thought about since Ted 2. While Kiri is there, and Kiri wants to talk with her great mother, and this is when she starts to annoy the crap out of me, like I said earlier, because she whines to Awa about how when she asks for help, and she never showed up, and we get back to the forest as Kiri learns she doesn't have a father, and she believes it makes her more of a freak. As we see how in the first Avatar movie, Sigourney Weaver in human form dies in front of Awa, as we get images from the second Avatar movie when the humans shoot the whole dead with Scoresby and Dr. Garvin as they return home with the Water Navi, and with Tonawari and Ranal, as Neytiri practices her bow and arrow and get into an argument with Ranal while she has a child coming. And why is she in this movie other than working with Jim Cameron in Titanic is beyond me. The outcast whale becomes the outcast again, while Loak fights their decision, while Jake talks with him like he doesn't care, as Loak and Jake don't have anything to say to each other. And Neytiri keeps going on about how she hates the humans, and the arcs are being said like this over and over again. Did annoy me in this entire movie, while Loak tries to commit suicide until Kiri and... let me see if I'm saying this name right. Sirea, who doesn't matter in this movie like she did the last time, comforts him. And next day comes with Kiri teaching Spider how to ride a creature in the water. And these shots do look great, while Quaritch goes to the Ash Navi to look for Spider and Varang, as he finds Varang first. And what happens next is an interesting choice, but for now, we don't need the family drama for half the movie. Quaritch meets Varang and gives her more guns, as Varang takes Quaritch inside her tent and hypnotizes him with the fire drug. As she sees colors, and how Quaritch was hypnotized was an interesting choice, while Varang explains what happens to her people, which was shown in the trailer, with Awa turning its back on her people. While I did find the scene a tad bit weird in my IMAX 3D showing, as Quaritch and Varang help each other out with what they want, and the scenes with the villains are more interesting than the story with the Sullys, in my opinion. I'm sorry, I'm gonna just say it now. The Varang's a more interesting character than the Sullys are. Sirea tells Loak about how to free the outcast, while he says his goodbye to Neytiri to take care of it behind her back, and Sirea gets her brothers to look for Loak, while he looks for the outcast whale, as Kiri and Spider hang out together to have a kiss together, which creeped me out because Sigourney Weaver is in her 70s while the actor playing Spider is too young for her. But luckily she kissed someone else her own age, I want to say. I'm not 100% certain on this one. But they did confirm that at one point of the first weekend this movie came out, and the Navi Ash captures Spider while Kiri gets back to Jake, and the others are the bad Navi get to the water. One Navi, Jake approaches to make a deal with Quaritch to go on their ship, and half of what I said could be in the editing room floor, except for that last moment I brought up. Excuse me. Jake goes with Quaritch and Varang to the military base while General Ardmore willingly, and Neytiri almost kills Quaritch, but instead she hits the ground and they take off with General Ardmore doesn't approve of Varang and her Ash Navi. And Jake and Spider reunite briefly, and Quaritch puts Jake in a glass cage while Spider is tested for tissue damage. As Loak and Rhea and her brothers find Loak, as some type of deep fish attack Loak until the outcast whale saves his life, and Loak almost dies. And why is this movie still going, as James Cameron is never brief anymore? Spider tries to get out of being caged again from Quaritch as he gives him his dog tags, and thanks Spider for saving his life in the last movie, and he'll be there if Spider needs him, because remember, they're father and son. And he keeps the dog tags, and the outcast whale comes to Loak and other Na'vi with another whale, while Dr. Graven wants to betray the Selfridge/military ways, as he thinks of getting Jake out of captivity, as Quaritch thinks of killing Jake in the next morning, while Neytiri thinks of going after Jake, and Spider escapes from captivity as well as... And at this point, I want this to be the climax of the movie, because I got an hour and 15 minutes of movie to go. And I'm not looking forward to talking about it because the movie drags. Neytiri sneaks around military base while Quaritch plays a drinking game, and she gets Varang and finds out where Jake is at. And Quaritch shows up and escapes as fast as she can, while Spider is disguised as a worker, and Dr. Garvin gets Jake out of his cage and introduces himself to Jake as a fan of what he did, while Jake is getting shot at until Spider gets in the way, while Ardmore wants to kill Jake with Spider in the way, and Neytiri comes in and gets them the hell out of there, which is a good action sequence, and I wish this was the climax of the movie, like I said before, and I'll say it again. Jake asks Neytiri to explain to her they can't keep Spider alive anymore, as Jake almost kills Spider while Neytiri tries to stop Jake, as he can't do it anyways because of his kids, and he's like a son of theirs. And why is this still going? Because like I said, James Cameron is never brief anymore, as that bothers me. And there were times I was getting Disney's Pocahontas in the forest as well as Free Willy in the ocean, like in the first two movies, and I'll get a third movie in the climax. I was getting vibes from, but I'll get there when I get there. But for now, Jake gets his giant creature he flew from the first movie back to action to fight against the Sky People, as well as make a speech before the battle for Pandora is about to begin. And the dialogue was a tad bit corny at times throughout the movie. Jake, Neytiri, Tonowari, and Ronal talk with the whales about finding the Sky People, as Loak and the other Na'vi, Rhea and others, talk about how he's the outcast, while the outcast is there, and some of the other Na'vis are outcasts, with the whale letting Loak speak about the outcast whale and say they must fight, and the Sky People, as the whales, decide over it in time, and that scene was corny as hell. While Quaritch disguises himself as an Ash Navi, as Ardmore wants him off the team, while Kiri talks with Ronal, about why she's here, and the battle begins with Jake telling Loak to stay behind, and if they lose, to go as far and away from them as possible, as the battle begins, and win until Quaritch and Varang and the Ash Navi come in. And the problem is, I was done with the movie, but not checked out, as it was going on for a bit too long. But remember, the visuals are what's holding me from disliking the movie at this point in time. Quaritch and Varang come in with guns, while the other Na'vi have spears, and like Jake said, they can't win this one with just spears, while Loak, Spider, Kiri, and Took get in the water thanks to Kiri's actions, and Spider stays with Kiri, and eventually Took comes in to ask the Holy Mother, as I was getting a vibe from 2001: A Space Odyssey, with the head that looks like a baby, as Loak joins the fighting with the whales, and Rhea's brothers get shot, as does Rhea herself. And I thought, damn, that came out of the blue. Loak does get out of the war zone, while Neytiri is down, as well as Jake, and he believes they're done until Awa answers Kiri's wish, while Jake is rescued by Loak, and Neytiri helps Renal push her baby out as she dies, and holds her baby after Renal names the baby Priya. And I have a question. Why did Renal go into battle when she knew she was going to go into labor? That was what was bothering me. Neytiri holds Priya during the rest of the fight, while Jake confesses how proud he is of Loak, and suddenly Took is captured by Quaritch, as Neytiri also gets captured by Varang, and she tortures Neytiri, and Quaritch asks Jake to bring Spider with him on radio, while Kiri makes the fish kill the Sky People by Awa's command, and this felt pretty unrealistic and unconvincing. All the bird creatures and fish creatures attack the Sky People, Jake, and Loak to keep their distance, while Spider comes to Quaritch to make a deal with Jake, attacking as Varang attacks Neytiri, and Kiri comes in and says, "Leave my mother alone, you bitch." And you know what I was getting a vibe from at that moment was, "Get away from her, you bitch," from Aliens. While Jake goes after Quaritch by a flying creature and saves Spider's life, as everyone in the Sully family has a flying creature. And I can never remember what the hell these things are called at all. And Jake and Quaritch fight each other once again, and Spider's shooting an arrow at Quaritch, and they fight until Quaritch is down, and Spider almost goes down with Quaritch. And I have a feeling this is playing it pretty damn safe. Jake pulls up Spider and Quaritch as they hang on together to get back up until the Sully family comes in, and Quaritch falls down and backwards and comes in, and come on. He's not dead yet. As the Sully family hug it out, and they attach Spider to Awa and meets Kiri's mother, as well as the other dead Na'vi. And the climax was good, but my god, is this movie too long. But do I like it as much as the first two Avatar movies? Let's talk about it in a rating. I'll give this movie a 6.4 out of 10. The visual effects are the best thing about the movie, and like The Way of Water, it should win the Oscar for Best Visual Effects, but as far as the rest of the movie goes, the characters are fine, while a lot of the beginning of the movie goes absolutely nowhere, as it is a very, very long movie that needs some more editing than ever, like the last film. And do I care for this movie and the characters? Somewhat on the characters, but Kiri really annoyed the crap out of me, and the movie was just okay, as it was just too damn long. The only character I thought was interesting was Varang, and kudos to Una Chaplin by playing the character menacingly and attractive, and at the same time, while the movie was pretty funny unintentionally, and I was getting not just previous Avatar movies vibes, but I was getting flashbacks to other movies like 2001: A Space Odyssey, Disney's Pocahontas, Free Willy, and others. And that was a callback that I didn't need like I did get in the first two movies. And why is Kate Winslet in this movie, other than working with Jim Cameron in Titanic, is beyond me. Because she does nothing except give birth at the end of the movie. And why did she go out to war at the end? That's what didn't make sense to me. And the arcs going over and over again did annoy me to death. I wish two things. One, James Cameron to be brief with the editing, and two, make other movies that other than Avatar movies. As the more he makes, the less I like him. And the series, I'll say. And I'm going to give him one more movie. If he makes an Avatar movie that's too long like this and the last one, then I'm considering checking out of Pandora. But don't get me wrong. This is a recommendation for the movie, as the shots are great, but it's just too damn long. But the scenes with the villains are better than the scenes with the Sullys. And their scenes slow the movie way the hell down. But like I said, not my favorite James Cameron movie, and I wouldn't own this on 4K, as he has better movies than this, in my opinion. So I'd like to thank you guys for rejoining me for Avatar and James Cameron. And until, I don't know, whenever he makes a movie or when Avatar 4 comes, I see you.